President strengthens bilateral ties with Papua New Guinea during historic visit. Timor-Leste participates in Asian Media Summit in the Maldives. Journalists reflect on the media's role in a peaceful future at annual forum. The nation's history presented to the art world in Venice. Welcome back to RTTL World News. I'm Zeri Madeira. Timor-Leste's President Jose Ramos Horta visited Papua New Guinea this week to strengthen bilateral ties and attend the inaugural Melanesian Ocean Summit. He met PNG's Prime Minister James Marape, and the two leaders committed to set up permanent embassies in Dili and in Port Moresby.
A festive welcome for President Horta and a military guard of honor. Jose Ramos Horta last visited PNG 20 years ago when he was Foreign Affairs Minister. Now he is eager to open a new chapter of close relations.
We look forward to open our embassy here, and it will be a great privilege for us to also have Papua New Guinea's embassy in Timor-Leste.
PNG's Prime Minister James Marape was equally eager to forge new ties.
Through our relationship, we discuss people-to-people exchange, and His Excellency has indicated his nation's interest to open an embassy here. I also indicated our interest to open our embassy there.
In a further sign of solidarity, President Horta said Timor-Leste supports PNG joining the Association of Southeast Asian Nations.
We totally support Papua New Guinea's long-standing request to join ASEAN.
In Port Moresby, President Horta's attention turned to the inaugural Melanesian Ocean Summit 2026. Leaders from Pacific nations met to discuss ocean conservation and climate action.
This summit is all about ensuring ocean protection and sustaining the economy of our nations. Many see us as small island states, but I want to reverse this narration. We are big ocean states. Our combined space on the face of planet Earth is 30% of planet Earth. The blue planet is 30% Pacific. And so we have every right to author the need to sustain our oceans, because to others it may just be an ocean, but to us it is life.
We may not be part of Melanesia politically as an organization, but we are connected by the waters that surround us and by a shared commitment to protecting and sustainably manage our marine environment.
Timor-Leste lies within the Coral Triangle, a massive marine environment stretching across Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands.
This area contains 30% of the world's coral reefs and 76% of known coral species. Is home to 6 of the 7 species of marine turtles, as well as blue whales, sperm whales, dugongs, and over 2,200 reef fish species, representing about 37% of global diversity in this group.
During 3 days in PNG, President Horta met PNG's Governor General Bob Boffen, exploring new ways to cooperate. Next month, Timor-Leste will host the Blue Economic Conference, and President Horta invited Prime Minister Marape to visit Dili to attend. Both countries enjoy beautiful landscapes but face serious environmental challenges. It's expected Atauru Island will be declared a national park. Pauline Quintang, Olandino Paiseco, RTTL World News.
Planning for conventional media in the digital era, Timor-Leste's State Secretary for Social Communications joined global media leaders policymakers, and media professionals in the Maldives for the 21st Asian Media Summit, organized by the Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development. This year's summit is an urgent dialogue on how the region's broadcasters can survive in the digital-first era. Sonny Madeira brings us this report from Male, Maldives.
More than 300 delegates traveled from across Asia to discuss the way ahead for the media in the digital world. Opening this summit, the director of the Maldives Public Service Media urged leaders and journalists to keep truth as their Northern Star despite the challenges of the digital age.
Over the next few days, we aren't just here to discuss gadgets and software. We are here to ensure that as our platforms evolve, our ethics remain steadfast. Tech should be the vessel, but truth must debate the anchor.
On the first day, delegates explored how policy, regulation, and public investment can drive the media's sustainable digital evolution. During the discussion, Timor-Leste highlighted its commitment to investing in public broadcasting.
Public enterprise and our public enterprise every year government allocate budget to public enterprise, but the government or state not intervene the political editorial.
The summit came following last year's report from the Wall Street Journal that Google's AI overview and other AI-powered tools have reduced traffic to news publishers. According to the report, traffic to the New York Times, for instance, dropped from 44% to 36.5%. Media leaders tackled issues around AI, trust, and sustainability.
As technology evolves, so too does the role of media. Media today is not only about delivering information, it's about building trust, preserving culture, strengthening democracy, connecting communities, and ensuring that every voice can be heard in an increasingly digital world. Ladies and gentlemen, public service media in the Maldives remains committed to serving the public interest while embracing innovation and transformation.
At the heart of the debate are the rising challenges of misinformation, disinformation, and the declining public trust in traditional media in the digital era.
There should be guidelines and also fact-check mechanism inside the newsroom or in the production of news and program to ensure that AI is optimizing the production of news and programs and not taking over human role.
On the sidelines of the summit, RTTL signed an agreement with Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development to upskill Timorese journalists.
We signed an MOU to provide training for Timorese journalists, not just the public broadcaster, but also the private media and digital media platform.
New tools, new challenges, but same Northern Star. Sonny Madeira, RTTL World News.
An international conference hosted by Timor-Leste's Press Council has heard that journalists should look for inspiration from the nation's struggle for independence. The Dili Dialogue Forum 2026 features international and local guest speakers who share their experiences about journalism in times of conflict and peace to encourage Timor's new crop of aspiring reporters.
Oh yes, that's me. Right there.
Knowing how to report during times of struggle in war and in peace is crucial for journalists. The International Dili Dialogue Forum 2026 brought together hundreds of participants in Dili to highlight the role of the media for a peaceful future.
Peace journalism should not just emerge during the time of war and conflict, but in the context of rising digital threats.
The dialogue brought over senior journalists from Australia and Indonesia to share their experience and help new generations of reporters understand the importance of press freedom.
We invited former journalists who had reported about the Indonesian occupation of our country back then to tell their stories and shared their experience from that time.
Ms. Cardozo added the participation of students in the International Dili Dialogue Conference as a part of media literacy for future generations.
With the participation of the students, hopefully this dialogue is part of media literacy for our future generations of journalists.
Former chairman of the Indonesian Press Council, Josep Stanley Adi Prasetyo, encouraged Timorese journalists to be thoughtful and dig deep in their daily work.
I think the experience gave a lesson for the journalists to practice the peace journalism, how to cover both sides, how to make a complete the data to push the peace.
After hearing the experiences of the speakers, reporter Akasi Pintu says Timorese journalists must maintain balance.
If there is a conflict, now we know where to stand and how to tell stories to promote peace. In our current context, we need to stay true to our role, to be balanced in our coverage.
Timor-Leste's Vice Prime Minister described the media as a vital component of Timor-Leste's political landscape.
In countries that adopt a democratic system like Timor, the media plays an important role because only the media is the place for discussion, debate with reason, to avoid one person or group monopoly on the truth.
Journalists at the dialogue were reminded of the importance of trust, impartiality, and independence. Vicky Madeira, Judas Magno, RTTL World News.
Australian journalist Mark Bolan was among the international speakers at this week's Dili Dialogue Forum, where he shared his experiences in peace journalism. Mr. Bolan worked as a foreign correspondent in Indonesia and East Timor, and spoke with RTTL World News about what it means to return to inspire the next generation of Timorese journalists.
Can you explain your history with Timor-Leste and what it means to return?
Well, in the context of press freedom, I was asked to come and speak at this as a keynote at this conference this last week. It reminded me that my very first encounter with all things Timor happened back in 1985. I was a young reporter working in Darwin in Northern Australia, and some activists approached me and said, "We've got a very secret story that you might be interested. It's going to happen on Sunday morning. We are going to come, we are going to blindfold you, and we are going to take you in a Land Cruiser out of town for a secret event." I had no idea what that meant, of course, but Sunday morning came and the activists picked me up. I was a radio reporter for the ABC, and we were blindfolded, me and several other journalists, and taken 60 kilometres into the bushland in Northern Australia, where we discovered that we were in the presence of several Timorese activists, including Alfredo Ferreira and many others who were young men at that time. And what they were doing was making secret radio contact with Rttl forces in the mountains, in the jungle of East Timor. And this was called Radio Mobere. Yeah. It was Shinana Gusmao talking, giving his message to the world. And this was one of the listening posts, Radio Mobere, in Northern Australia. I learnt there and then that journalism could be resistance, and resistance was journalism.
Monmar, talking about Sanana Gusmao, your reunion with current Prime Minister Sanana Gusmao was an emotional one. Can you tell us about it?
When I did meet him a few years ago, and I showed him a photograph that had been taken of us together while he was a prisoner in Cipinang prison in Jakarta. And on that occasion, it was in the late 90s, and I was still an ABC reporter, and I was allowed into Cipinang prison, where he was being held under house arrest, to do an interview, a current affairs interview for Australian television. So we spoke for an hour, and he was so pleased to see me at that time. And years later, when I saw him here in Dili, he said to me, you know, that was an amazing time that we met, because I really thought that the rest of the world had forgotten about Timor, had forgotten about the struggle that we were embarked in, forgotten about the cause of freedom and independence for Timor. And he was very emotional about that. So, yeah, something I'll always treasure and remember.
What is Dili Dialogue, and how does it engage local journalists?
So whether it's in resistance struggle time, wartime, or whether it's in peacetime, and in Timor's case, since independence, I mean, a very important part of the Timorese constitution is freedom of speech. And so freedom of speech for journalists means being able to tell the stories of ordinary people, of every people in the community, and let their voice be heard, giving voice to the voiceless, in other words.
Monmar, talk about the press freedom. Timor-Leste jumped from 39th to 30th in this year's World Press Freedom Index. How important is freedom of press to developing countries like Timor-Leste?
So jumping 9 places from 39th to 30th is an indicator, it's an encouragement for journalists in this country, but it shouldn't be taken for granted either. I mean, it is just a poll that's put together. What's probably more important is that journalists in this country feel safe and able to report fearlessly, courageously and truthfully every time they step from the newsroom to go and do an interview with somebody, knowing that there won't be forces of power or economic pressure on them to report in a certain way, that they'll be able to tell the truth to the audience, people out there, everybody who really have a right in a democracy to know what's going on.
How can Timor-Leste's government and media organizations encourage freedom of press?
Well, I think they have to keep the pressure on politicians to make sure that they don't make changes that will, for instance, curb the ability of journalists to tell stories truthfully. Now, there's section 285 of the Penal Code in Timor-Leste, which talks about defamation. Now, if that defamation law becomes part of the criminal code, instead of being dealt with by the civic courts, it's going to really force journalists to think twice about writing a story. In other words, they are going to shy away from having that freedom of the press to be able to say what they know, to reveal facts, to be able to talk about power and money and influence and the people who are pulling the strings in society. It will limit their power to be able to do that. It's very, very important for press freedom, and that means for all of our audiences to be able to know what's going on. It's important for journalists to hold the line and stop that influence.
Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay.
For the second time, Timor-Leste is exhibiting its artwork at the 2026 Venice Biennale Global Art Exhibition, expressing the theme across worlds. Our reporter Zegedes traveled to Venice, Italy, to explore how our young country's artwork was showcased to the world in the Biennale's main venue, the Rttl.Ep.
Weather does not hinder curiosity. Thousands of people form long lines as they eagerly wait to explore the Arsenale, one of the world's leading art venues.
The Biennale of Venice is very important for art and expression artistic around the world.
Opportunity to see art, to see people, the connection between us.
The Venice Biennale is known as the Olympics of the art world, with over 100 pavilions installed, each representing a different country. The theme of the 2026 event, in minor keys, was chosen by Cameroonian Swiss art curator Koyo Kuo, who sadly passed away last year, shortly after her appointment as artistic director of the Venice Biennale.
I come here for the homage for Koyo Kuo.
Among the impressive pavilions, Timor-Leste delivers across worlds an exhibition celebrating the nation's linguistic diversity.
So being in the Arsenal is very special because it will bring even more audience to Timor-Leste.
The State Secretary of Art and Culture officially opened the pavilion last week.
We are proud to share our unique culture with the world at the Venice Biennale. This time, a prestigious venue at the Biennale.
Vision and belief flows through Timorese artist Edson Camiña.
Hopefully, they can take and receive what we give through our performance.
The performance was in reference to the Verhana ritual, which is to call the ancestor for blessing. And so Edson Camiña recited the Verhana, welcoming the ancestor to bless this pavilion and for the visitors to enjoy and experience Timor-Leste in Venice.
Iconic Timorese piece Tais Dawn by Veronica Pereira Maya featured as the centerpiece of the pavilion. Created in 1994, the names of those lost during the Santa Cruz massacre in 1991 are sewn into the ties.
What makes this work especially extraordinary is that the artist Pereira Maya herself is illiterate. Unable to read or write in the conventional sense, she transformed shapes into text and oral history into material testimony.
At the time she was a bit young and she did the whole thing with it. And we didn't realize that we did that. To be picked today, to be her art to be picked, to be here in Venice for the exhibition. So today we are very proud of her.
Edson Camiña and Juventino Madeira complement the story of Tais Dawn with sound and video installations.
So it's very deeply moving what these artists are doing, and I'm very grateful to Loredana Pazzina, the curator, who has brought this team of excellent artists together with their government to support global awareness of this wonderful, beautiful artwork about such a deeply traumatic recent history.
So we felt, I think, all of us very emotional because we worked so hard. The artists worked very hard. Myself and my team worked very hard to create a pavilion that would really be meaningful for Timor-Leste.
The Biennale serves as a meeting place for artists, curators, and international visitors.
We
promote the name of Timor, and make better connections with artists, curators, collectors, and important people related to art, to make way for Timorese artists to collaborate with artists from other countries.
All of the works from across worlds are recorded in a catalog to be displayed at the Rttl.Ep Museum.
This book is intended for everyone visiting the Venice exhibition. All who access it will be able to follow our work presented there. It also includes a foreword from the Prime Minister explaining the work itself, as this is an honor for us.
So it's a really good book, which I have been delighted to have supported, and really it's just something I recommend.
The Venice Biennale was interrupted by protests from artists who vehemently rejected acts of war worldwide and Israel's presence at the event in connection with the war in Gaza. Amidst the protests and global conversation, the Timor-Leste Pavilion stood tall, telling the world about Timor-Leste's traumatic history through art. Zegeres, RTTL World News.
In international news, a missing piece of Australia's democracy has been put back in pride of place in the building that housed Australia's parliament for more than 60 years. Parts of the press gallery have been recreated and opened to the public at Old Parliament House to honor the countless stories reporters and news crews pumped out in the cramped and smoking conditions.
Back where it all began. Laurie Oakes still looms large in Old Parliament House. His more than 60 years in political journalism's now been formally recognised.
There's no better job, in fact, than working in the press gallery. Everyone here knows that.
Along with the still hard-working doyenne of the press gallery, Michelle Grattan.
In her absence, I pay tribute to a legend.
Working media left its old home almost 4 decades ago. When they did, evidence of 61 years of storytelling went to.
Where were you exactly in this ABC bureau?
I was over here in the corner.
In Barry Cassidy's view, it was time for a historical omission to be addressed, and it has been.
This building had captured the role of the politicians, a lot of the staff. What was missing with the gallery?
A full rebuild of a once larger press gallery wasn't possible, so down the corridors in the poky rooms that remain, an operation was launched to retell aspects of how news was gathered, written and reported.
Lots of bureaus didn't keep their tech once it got old or obsolete. We've basically been looking for any kind of technology, things like tape recorders or cameras.
Through wars, depression, party splits and changes of government, the press gallery wrote a first draft of the nation's history from here. In fact, around half of the time since Federation, it was based right here in this building, back at a time when the term information technology had barely been heard of, and when a typewriter, a pen and a tape recorder got the news out because it had to.
Fun-filled days of jokes, smokes and mostly blokes, there for all to share.
And now the weather, starting with Dili. Scattered showers and a possible afternoon thunderstorm. A top temperature of 31 and a low of 24 degrees. In Bocau, humid and overcast with occasional afternoon rain and thunderstorm. Temperatures ranging between 28 and 21 degrees. Intervals of clouds and sunshine with scattered thunderstorms in Lautem. A high of 29 and a low of 23 degrees. Cloudy and humid with thunderstorms in Bobonaro. A top temperature of 27 and a low of 18. And in Eleu, mostly cloudy and humid. A couple of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Temperatures ranging between 24 and 17. Now looking abroad, in Kupang, partly sunny and very humid with a couple of afternoon thunderstorms, a high of 32 and a low of 25. Humid in Bali, with scattered showers and thunderstorms, temperatures ranging between 31 and 24. In Jakarta, partly sunny with a couple of thunderstorms in the afternoon, a top of 33 and a low of 24. Periods of sun and cloud in Seoul, a high of 29 and a low of 16 degrees. In Darien, partly sunny and humid with a thunderstorm in the afternoon, temperatures ranging between 32 and 24 degrees. In Sydney, overcast with scattered showers throughout the day, a high of 21 and a low of 16 degrees. Sunny and clear in Lisbon, with temperatures ranging between 21 and 13. Overcast with afternoon showers in London, a top temperature of 16 and a low of 10. And cloudy with a couple of showers in Belfast, a high of 14 and a low of 10. Thanks for joining us again on the program. RTTL World News will be back with more stories on Thursday. Bye for now.